Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. I'm excited to have my new friend Deepak Bhootra with me today. Welcome, Deepak. Why don't you tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, thank you for having me, Jeff. So, audience, be warned. This is one of those guys that people always said, never give him a microphone. He will never give it back to you. And most likely, you'll have to buy it back from him. So, I have been in the corporate world for 30, 35 years. Jeff, I exited the corporate world. I have 4 degrees from 4 continents. It was just one of those weird, high energy Indian things to do, right? The day you're born, the grandfather leans down and says, engineer or doctor or CPA, otherwise, throw him out of the house. So, it's just one of those things. So along the way, what really happened for me, Jeff, was that I got into sales in a really funny way, but I got into sales and actually enjoyed the fact that I was serving customers and solving problems. I then kind of got burnt out in sales, and I actually then found my next love, which was sales operations. So I entered into the sales operations domain and actually became a CRM, CPQ, compensation, remuneration, all sorts of stuff. My doctoral degree is actually in job satisfaction and organizational commitment of sales reps, which makes it very interesting, Jeff, because now I come from a place of deep empathy. As an ex-salesperson, as I'm building a process out, the first thing I ask is, does this create low coefficient of drag? Or does this need a salesperson to sit at his desk and not be selling? Because that's just contra to what we stand for, right? Then in the last year and a half, Jeff, I started changing gears, started writing a lot. All what you see in the background is all the books that I've written. I then actually started, due to my own personal interest in mental health and due to close family members struggling with some challenges, I started writing and deeply researching on that domain. So I'm right now raising funding for my new initiative called Rise Up at Work. It is a career progression platform. It's a white space that I found where a 21-year-old who exits high school doesn't know how to navigate the corporate world. And if he needs help, he has to rely on other colleagues. Because today's HR is very different from the HR from 50 years ago, 30 years ago, right? Today's HR says, here's a 1-800 number, call your friend, I don't care. One of those scenarios. So that's where I am. That's what I'm up to. That's what I do. Love selling, love mental resilience, work very hard at. So for me, I name my organization Jabulani, which actually means rejoice or joy, because I really want to make sure and remind people that in everything we do, there has to be something positive to take from it.
I love it, and I think it's a fascinating journey. I have a friend, Hamish Knox, who is also with Sandler, and I know Sandler at one point was sort of known for their sales training, and then I see that it's evolving into the systems world because so you and I are probably going to nerd out about systems, and we're going to talk about your startup because I think for me, if something's not systemized, it's not repeatable, and therefore we're leaving elements of chance to it.
You just nailed something right there. When you talk about Sandler and his moves and his changes, look, I don't speak for Sandler, but I can tell you one thing. The reality is that how we sell has changed dramatically also, right, Jeff? 25, 30 years ago, when I first got introduced to CRM, I really liked the concept. But today, when I look back, I actually hated what was happening at that point. Why? Because the tools that were being designed for management to govern and control. They were not designed with salespeople at the heart of it. That took a lot of cultural change and shift. The last 4 years, I would say, thanks to generative AI and the fact that now every salesperson has what I call shadow IT. They run their own stack, they run their own stuff. It's an amazing arena, right? So when we talk about systems, the reality is that the systems have always been there. This is now the first time where generative AI or AI brings it to, what is the word I'm looking for? Democratize it. It's democratized it. It's brought it to your keyboard where you need not a single line of code and you can actually have a very intelligent conversation. So what happens with salespeople now is, I'm a sales guy. I want to write an email. Where do they start? ChatGPT. And of course, there are dangers in that. And we'll talk about that a bit more. But systemizing, scaling comes from a process. Process will set you free. Peter Drucker, I think it was, who said, Jeff, and you would have heard of this one, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. And here's my 2 cents to that. Both culture and strategy will get eaten, spat out by systems. Systems enforce discipline. Systems allow you to scale from 100K to $1 million to $10 million and beyond. No strict systems, that means you have no discipline. And I'm not saying that this is wash, rinse, repeat, right? And it's anyway pretty rich coming from a guy that has no hair to talk about wash and rinse and repeat. But here's the best thing. My wife says, Deepak, you do consume a lot of shampoo. I said, yes, I'm a nostalgia guy. I want to stand there, feeling what I've lost with all the suds I create. So I use a lot of shampoo, believe it or not, Jeff. Yeah.
I love it. And I'm going to add another quote that's one of my favorites. In Atomic Habits, James Clear says, we don't rise to the level of our dreams. We fall to the level of our systems or habits. I can't remember the exact words.
It's systems. You're spot on.
Yeah.
When James Clear, I've never actually partaken in his work a lot because he's got a brilliant newsletter and the culmination of his effort. When I opened up the book Atomic Habits, the first thing that hit me is exactly what Jeff. His opening premise, a lot of people don't understand, but the reality is that if you look at habits and you look at goal setting, why do people fail on goals? People fail on goals because they typically will find the ceiling was not their ambition. The ceiling was the method they put into place.
Yeah. Honestly, they trip over the first step.
They trip over the first step. I want to lose 40 pounds and he's stuck at 5 pounds and he doesn't know how to move to the next step. And when you hit a wall, you step back and declare it doesn't work. Then you move on to the next fad. And I think that's what James was talking about. And I really like that book for those reasons. So spot on, Jeff, for building that one in. Yes.
I love it. And by the way, that's the other day I was having this weird aha moment where I was revisiting some of my standard operating procedures for my business. And I went, wait a minute, James Clear was just teaching us systems for our life. And I can't separate the two in my head now. So that's been a fun journey.
Jeff, again, that's tremendous insight because there's a lot of people who read books and take a book and think it's siloed and they never realize the cross applicability of it. And you're spot on. If we are acknowledging that discipline and systems can make companies scale from 1 million to 10 million, then those same can also help in habit forming. Because what is habits? Habits is nothing more than just breaking down where you see yourself and then breaking down the steps, how to get there. And then knowing that you will fail along the way because you are human. And that's why one of the books I wrote was called What Makes Us Human Fails Us Too. And if you understand that, then the fun starts because now you know. So if I'm on a diet, I need to lose 40 pounds. I get to week 2 and I'm down 10 and I'm feeling excited. And then I go to this bar and someone says, eat as much as you want for $1.99. And I'm like, yeah, baby. And I have like 5 milkshakes and I come back home miserable. And then I'm like, this doesn't work. And I think what we are now saying is that we acknowledge that this will happen. And now that we acknowledge this happens, now the question is, how will you come back to the course?
Yeah.
And a lot of people at that point get flicked out of the flywheel rather than being left in the flywheel to keep going forward with it. So even though people don't like the hamster analogy, but how do you keep a hamster in there? He combats centrifugal force. And there's something he does to keep his balance and and then he eats voraciously because he needs to maintain that energy, which brings me to the realities of food, sleep, rest, and all of those things also matter in when you're doing a hustle kind of a lifestyle.
I love that. And I think one of the things I've observed, I'm a huge fan of studying human nature. Entrepreneurs in particular, we're really bad at self-care. We will get on that treadmill and we'll run like hell. And then we fall over dead and then we go lay on the couch for 6 months. And the shame cycle is what seems to break a lot of entrepreneurs because we commit to ourselves and say, I'm going to do this. And then we don't know how to do it. And then we beat ourselves up because we didn't climb the mountain we said we were going to climb.
Here's the fun part. Even when we climb the mountain that we said we would climb, we complain about the fact that we're only halfway. The biggest insight that I got into human nature is that one constant with human nature is unpredictable. So I would actually ask you, Jeff, not to study human nature, and actually enjoy it with a big box of popcorn in your hand.
Oh, I do.
Then you go to the other side. Ho, ho, ho. What were you thinking? Oh, buddy. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. That's human nature, right, Jeff? Now, Jeff, I was once sitting and we were talking about failure. And there was a picture behind me of Mount Everest. And I actually asked someone, now that's a lovely picture. Isn't it the world's largest peak? And then someone said to me, yes. And I've done base camp. And I said to him, oh, you only did base camp? And he looked at me and said to me, base camp is 6,600 meters up, Deepak. The tip is another 4,000 meters or something above. He said, I'm already 2/3 of the way up. That hit me. Something hit me. And I realized that, wait a minute, now I understand. Jeff, what we're actually saying is that we are so fascinated by submitting that we sometimes forget that where you are, buddy, is already so reflective of how smart and good you are. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Here's another thing that I've realized about human nature, Jeff, is that human beings are absolutely stupendous at. So a friend walks up and says, man, I had a shit day at work. My boss told me that I'm on a performance improvement plan. And the guy says to him, okay, you know what? Don't worry. They either tell him your boss is an idiot or this is what you need to do. And he gives him tremendous advice. Then he says to him, you want to go for a beer? You want to go to a movie with me? Cool. Next day, your friend who gave the advice to someone else, you now, it's your turn. And you are put onto a PIP. What's the first thing we do? We go sit on the toilet and we start cursing ourselves. How did you miss that? You're such an idiot. And I always tell people, can I ask you a question? What would you say to your friend? And he tells me, oh, I would have taken him to a beer. I would have taken him to a movie. I said, but why didn't you offer that same self-compassion to yourself? And Jeff, you're spot on. Founders are actually the worst. And I'll tell you why. Because they have this feeling, and I'm not disagreeing with them because I'm a founder myself. We decided to leave our cushy jobs and go put our hard-earned money into our dream. Therefore, we feel it's an obligation to achieve this dream by doing whatever it takes, because that's been pumped into us. There's also this fundamental, very big thing that's been sold to us, that hustle is a sign of intelligence and a sign of integrity and a sign of everything. To be honest with you, my mom once said something very powerful to me. She said to me, Deepak, getting someone pregnant is easy. Having the baby is easy. Raising that child is the litmus test. So do not judge a person by the number of kids he has. Judge a person by how he has raised them. And that's when I actually realized. So to founders, I always say this as follows. You have an idea, it's your baby. You got to raise it. And to raise a baby, the mother and the parents have to be in the right health, right state of mind. Two, don't fall in love with the baby. People fall in love with I'll give you an example of, I've got right now 6 clients I'm a strategic advisor to 6 startups, Jeff. And you know what makes me laugh? Every founder I deal with is usually an engineer or some technical background. Wattage goes off, walks in and he says, if I build it, they will come. And that's when I say, you know what? Please do. Jeff, would you like to join me with a big box of, this time I'll bring in the candy. You have the popcorn. Let's watch what's about to happen. And this is what happens. He goes to a customer and the first thing he says to the customer is, let me show you my product. He shows the product, does a demo, and then the customer says to him, thank you for your time. And the guy says, cool. The guy says, could you send me some more information? You send it to him. 2 months go by, 3 months go by, and you're like, not clear what happened there. I'll tell you what happened there. You never understood the pain. You never did discovery. You went straight to demo. You are literally tossing something on the wall, hoping something will stick. And in today's TLDR world, where we are now saturated by emails, DMs, LinkedIn is a cesspool. You are selling to each other. Your voice has to be crystal clear upfront. And the only way to make it crystal clear, and this is the answer to the question you asked earlier. Why did I go with Sandler? Because Sandler tells me to rise above the noise and never forget the objective. The objective is that you have equal stature as a seller. Selling is very important because selling pays the bills. Mr. and Mrs. Founder out there, please understand, learn how to sell, learn how to recover from a failed sale to keep coming back again. Because if you cannot sell, you cannot commercialize. If you cannot commercialize, there's no cash flow. And if you don't have cash flow, you will die. And 90% of founders listening will die from cash flow, not from idea paucity.
I love that. And there's so much wisdom in there. I don't know where to begin, but the reality is, I come from a world of accounting, and I've sat in many rooms with engineers and accountants and the highly technical people, and to this day I'm the guy in the room saying, how do we validate this? How do we know people will buy this? And I know some really brilliant people who are dead broke because I have a friend, she's ex Microsoft, and her opinion, she's so used to people taking meetings with her because she used to be high up in Microsoft, and she's like, I'm really good, people know my name. No, they know the name on your business card.
Oh my gosh.
But now she's
spot
left
on.
Microsoft and people don't want to hire her, and she's like, what's wrong with it? And I'm not kidding. I had to create for this woman, we do a networking event together. I had to create an AI translator because I can't understand her corporate speak. And it's like,
Jeff, this is so cool because Here's one thing that shocked knocked the sense out of me. September 2024, I started picking up the phone because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a standard guy. And I would call and people said to me, who? Now, when I used to call before, I would say, hi, this is Deepak from HP. And the guy would say to me, yes, Deepak, how can I help you? Because he wasn't helping Deepak, he was helping HP.
Yeah.
So my cold call was actually a warm call. Now I become an entrepreneur. I'm like, hi, this is Deepak from Jabulani. Who gave you my number? I'm with the kids right now. I'm dropping them off. How dare you? Yeah. Where did you get my number from? What is this about? Can you tell me in 30 seconds or I'm putting this phone down?
Yeah.
Is this a sales call? Yes, it is. Thank you for your honesty. Boom. And you're like, and I said to my wife, I'm absolutely humbled. What is going on? And so I picked up the phone and I spoke to a few of the Sandler guys and they told me, hey, buddy, welcome to the real world. All of us who are, and this is a message to founders. You can work for the big companies and all that, but the second the company name goes in, it's you, your dream, your organization. So look behind you. Do you see a cavalry? No. Then so now understand, if you don't see a cavalry, it's you, it's your word, it's your work that's going to matter going forward. And that is the biggest mind shift for me, was to acknowledge that. And then Jeff trying to do everything by myself. I actually thought I could pull it off. And then you realize you don't know, Deepak. 35 years of experience doesn't tell me anything. As my grandfather used to say, Jeff, you can walk for 40 years, but then that doesn't mean that you're not going to get under a truck or break your leg, right? Because someone rode into you. He said, that's not how it works. So evidence of corporate servitude of 3 decades or 4 decades may not be such a great moniker for a lot of people. And in fact, but Jeff, I'm going all over the place. Back to you, boss.
The whole point of this show is we go all over the place. That's but
we're not allowed to. You named your show the Lighthouse. I was under the impression that the Lighthouse is actually giving you direction and saying, here be boulders, stay away. But yes, point taken, sir.
I love it. The man did his homework. And yes, one of the aha moments was, I'm here to point out the hazards, but I'm not here to steer you through it. So this is part of the show. We have some fun. And I think that the mindset piece is the most fundamental because I'm going to be honest, when I first read Gino Wickman's Traction, I was like, who are you to tell me I need systems? And then I realized Gino's one of us. And I went, oh, this is for us, not to us.
By the way, Jeff, you just subtly threw in something which is very powerful. I'm not talking about you or to you. We take it very personally. I really like that those words that you use, those word choices are very powerful. If people got that frame and understood it, it would actually have a huge market in. And this is one of the things that we are in the standard world also very focused on, Jeff, which is everyone has a habit of taking things personally. Yeah. I didn't like the way he spoke to me. I didn't like the way he was. The point is, what was the message? I don't remember the message, but I remember his tone. So people typically tell people, manage your tone, man, because you need to speak better. No, people need to listen better also. At the end of the way, I can only control my reaction to other people. I cannot control or dictate to other people how they should react or work with me. I just cannot. So I think it's a very powerful message here.
So just to warn you, I have 2 boys. They're both teenagers. And my teens, both of them, probably for about the last 5 years, every day we talk about mindset in the car because I drive them to and from school. And it is amazing to watch them as they're understanding that there are things they can control, there are things they can't control. And if they focus on their attitude and what they can control, life's a lot less stressful.
You know what, Jeff? I think you just gave me an amazing pivot because we spoke about Rise Up earlier, right? Now, I am going to return the favor by first congratulating on 2 boys. I have 2 boys. Unfortunately, people give condolences to my wife because now she has to raise 3 Deepaks or 3 boys. So each is different. My 2 boys are both now 28 and 26. And one was at Microsoft. The other one was at Procter & Gamble. They were doing very well. One has had some setbacks in terms of his own, reaction to work pressures and stuff. He helps me in my business. I think it's safer, protective. It's much better to let him work at his own pace. My youngest son decided that he's going to switch gears and he wants to do his MBA, so he's at NYU. But here's what I wanted to say to you. Jeff, you talk about mindset, right? I'm having conversations with my two boys, and this is what blows my mind. I'm an ICF certified coach who has helped 1,500 people in his career. Can I tell you, both my sons' trajectories I could not predict, because that's reality. Our boys are going to learn from us, but you still cannot assume that your learning is going to tell you that you can predict what's happening. The world has changed. Previously, if I joined HP, Sun Microsystems, whatever, my goal was not to work only for 2 years or 3 years and then exit. But today, most of these youngsters tell me, what are you talking about 20 years, 15 years, 7 years? No, I don't even care. I don't know. I just really don't know, genuinely don't know, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the point I wanted to make though is that when I speak to my two sons when they were at office, Jeff, this is going to blow your mind. You know, everything that they were complaining about, talking about, was exactly the same stuff I was complaining about 35 years ago. Nothing changed. All
Nothing
that
changes.
changed was that nothing changes. All that changed was that the shampoo that I was using 50 years ago used to come in a 1.5 gallon, where you have to pick it up and then now it's got pumps in it. It's got all, and it's got 17 different varieties. Something is with cardamom flavored. I'm like, why would you add flavoring in something that I'm going to put on my head? That makes no sense, right? Then you got menthol tingling. You got menthol soft. You're like giving up. And now I finally saw the ultimate shampoo with charcoal in it. Why? But anyway, the point that I'm making is that as I listen to these stories, I actually realize we have not solved the problem. We have not solved the problem. We are leaving it to parenting to help people become better corporate citizens. And I don't believe that many parents are actually able to guide them, because kids don't want guidance from their parents. They rather take guidance from another a friend of theirs who is also struggling in life, right?
Oh.
So it's one of those things. So I just wanted to call it out too. So I know the feeling of raising two kids, but what was really astounding for me is that the kids and I actually got closer when they got to their offices and jobs, because they suddenly realized everything dad was telling us, which we thought was just him being, I kept warning them, the world is a cruel place. Be sharp.
Yeah.
How you communicate with people, how preciseness, conciseness, all matter. They all now agree with me.
I love that, and it's funny. I have no idea where my kids will end up, but at least I can give them the capacity to stand on my shoulders and see a little further. So, and it's funny because in my world, I grew up on a farm, so my childhood, I didn't see it as immediately relevant in the business world. Now I do, because you're always dealing with the same crap different day, but it's given me a lot of resilience, a lot of mindset stuff, but it's also helping me give my kids a bit of an advantage. And again, I don't know where they'll take it or where they'll go, but one of the things I started doing this year is I also coach on occasion, and I thought, well, if I'm coaching strangers and doing it for money, why wouldn't I coach my kids? So, and yes, much like you, my wife has 3 of me to deal with now, because they're little, their brains are just fantastic. And they're just sponges, but they're so much like me. And her favorite line now is, "Don't encourage him, don't laugh." And it's like, but it's funny.
My best teaching was, Jeff, when she is having a harsh word with one of the boys, and I would interject and say, "But I think you're being hard on him." And she just turned around and looked at me and said to me, don't do that. I'm having a word with my son, telling him that I'm a bit disappointed. I don't want you to tell him anything contrary, because you're simply telling him you can ignore mom because I think you're doing a cool job. She says, you're looking at this from a wrong point of view. I'm looking at it from what I would expect from him when he goes into the real world. I'm like, okay. That's when I realized I'm sleeping in the guest room that night.
I shouldn't have raised my hand and got into the conversation. I love it. Now, let's talk a little bit about what you're building on the side with your Rise Up, because I think one of the things I love about entrepreneurs is we all know we should have systems. We all know we should focus on one thing, and we all have multiple things we focus on. So how did you make this pivot from your main focus is Sandler, and now you're building a business on the side?
So I would put it to this way. I am a Sandler guy. I could build my second business because I am a Sandler guy, because I have a steady stream of income that comes in on the side, right? Otherwise, it's very difficult to try to figure out how to run two and then run both into the ground. So for me, Rise Up came because one of the personal need. As I mentioned, my own 2 sons' experience told me that there's a massive gap in the market. The gap is as follows, Jeff. We spent 10 years in our high school world, right? In college. And Jeff, we are spoiled. We get, examinations told to us on what date is going to happen. We are given frameworks. We're given the books are given to us. We even told we
Yeah.
only ask you questions from these three books. That's it. And people tell me that was the most difficult time of life was college. I'm like, oh, really? Or each and every one of those guys celebrates his first job. Then within 2 months, they say to me or to others, I just don't understand what the heck's going on here. I go to my boss and he tells me, take an appointment. I'm busy right now because he has 20 other people reporting to him. I go to HR and HR tells me, it is your responsibility to build your own career. We will simply facilitate it, which is corporate speak for, and doing nothing buddy for you.
Yeah.
Now, this 21-year-old who was extremely pushy-tailed, eager, excited, suddenly realizes that the very same scaffolding that was keeping him up is now gone. He has to build
Yeah.
his own scaffolding or find new scaffolding. So they look around and someone says, get a coach. They pick a phone up and they speak to a coach, and the coach says, hello, sure, I can help you. It'll be 10 sessions at $200, $2,000. You have to pay me 50% in advance, and it's and no refunds. So the guy sits there thinking, well, my after tax is only $4,000. I got to give her 50% of that. I can't afford coaching. So that's what happens. And here's the fun part. Coaching is most beneficial at age 21 to 28, 30. You're in your early
Yeah.
to early mid career. That's when you need to, because if you can build the foundation correctly, then you have ensured that your inflection points will now magnify over the course of time. People actually laugh and then they go very quiet when I tell them, you spend 10 years to find the first job, and then you spend another 10 years trying to figure out why your tragic career journey, which is going to last 30 to 40 years, has not been thought through. I says, none of us go to college to even learn how to manage a manager. No one is taught how to communicate in a corporate setting. We're given courses, communication 101 in an MBA. But reality is that you got to apply it, you got to learn, and you have to adapt. How do you do that? And most 21-year-olds, guess where they learn about toxic managers? On LinkedIn. They go to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has a billboard because some LinkedIn influencer has to build a billboard to get clicks, right? And the billboard says 10 ways to defeat a toxic manager. And when you read those 10 things, they actually ask you to do a lot. They ask you to how to approach or do a lot with the manager, but they never tell you how to internalize and change yourselves. That's
Yeah.
the approach I am taking. The approach I am taking is I would like to maintain a scaffolding which now changes form. I will help you navigate time management, prioritization. I'll help you manage your state of mind. I will make this a community, and I will introduce you to cohorts that you can now work with to see that there are other people having the same issue you have, and then hear 10 people explaining the approach they took so that you can formulate an 11th approach, which is a hybrid of what you saw that worked for others. That, in essence, is what I'm doing with that platform.
I love that. And, it's funny because my wife is in the HR role, and it is fascinating because HR is evolving more and more into a seems like it's a mediator role. We're trying to show people how to not get fired, and managers how to not get sued. And it's like nobody's actually asking what's good for the
So
company.
powerful. That's so powerful. And you know what's really interesting is that they actually do ask what's good for the company because that's the bread and butter. What they never ask is what's good for the individual that we convinced to come and hired and brought in. I've always said this as a sales guy, and Jeff, you will appreciate this. When a sales manager tells me that my team is shit, sorry about the language, and 80% of them can just be fired, the question I ask is who hired them? They invariably tell me I hired them. Then I say, let's start with you first.
Well, I also ask a second question: who trained them? Because it's like, oh, you got two
It,
strikes now.
it's and you know what's really cool is that most companies I work with, right? I'll walk in and they will tell me that, oh, Peter joined 2 months back, Sheila joined 1 year ago, and then I ask Sheila where she comes from, and she says, oh, we used to use the Corn Ferry method. Other guy says we use Challenger. Third guy says, oh, we had our own internal process. Now they're all sitting there together trying to convince me that they have a unified system. Can you imagine, Jeff? Can you imagine that you have now just built a robotics, or let's say you got a car. Now I tell you, oh, by the way, the engine came from Mercedes, the brake pads come from Isuzu, the steering wheel is from a Volkswagen Beetle that came down from my dad. You're going to be very nervous sitting in that car, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because we don't speak the same language. You don't even know where to take it when it breaks. Do you take it to the Volkswagen guys? Do you take it to Mercedes? Where do you take it to? And that's the point I try to make to sales managers. When you're hiring, are you hiring based on past performance? Or are you hiring based on cultural fit for scene? How much leeway are you willing to give people? And I think they're struggling with those things. And two, AI. Jeff, right now, you know what AI is doing? AI is making every salesperson look and sound intelligent. They are. I
Yeah.
genuinely tell you that. So I actually did a lot of research on this, and I spent time with 8 rockstar salespeople who are using AI to the gills. They are,
Yeah.
and I found a big difference with it. They use AI to become sharper. They use AI to let them see around corners. They use AI to be the devil's advocate for the work they do. They use AI for advanced analysis. They will literally say, here are the 25 RFP responses. Of this, 6, 1, 7 failed, and 12 are still pending. Develop from this and tell me what are the key attributes that we found in the winning documents compared to the losing documents. And then tell me for the ones that are pending, how can I double down and improve that? Ask how many salespeople are actually doing that type of work. They are so busy right now writing LinkedIn DMs, emails, doing basic stuff. I have to send an email to a CFO. Give me the top 2 reasons why the CFO should be interested in my product. What? That's what you're using for an AI for? Weird. Very weird.
You've got the world's largest data set, and we're using it for party tricks. It's kind of sad. And for what it's worth, I teach people, I don't care what field you're in, I love it for sales, but use AI to sharpen your skills. And I love it because you can see things you wouldn't see. One of the weird things I did is I built a database of, I used books from the Gutenberg Project. So you can take some of the greatest thought
Yes,
leaders in history, and I can have a conversation with them and say, okay, what am I missing here? And it is fascinating because the right people using AI the right way, they're sparring with it and asking it to beat them up a little.
absolutely.
Um, but the other people, they said, oh, I don't want to do my work, so could you do it for me? And of course, I believe that sales, if it's done right, it's the greatest service you can do for another human being, helping them find and
Correct.
understand their problem.
Absolutely. And then solve it for them and get paid
Yeah.
fairly for it. Absolutely. But Jeff, there's some great powerful stuff you said there. And my brain is literally like, I could like pick up 3 or 4 different threads from what you just said over there, right? But I always tell people very simple that, AI is going to be one of those things where you'll always feel that you're drinking from a hose. So the first thing you need to do is just double down on those that have working for you and just leave it to chance. There may be new products that come in, whatever. I'll give you a classic example of how human beings operate. So I did a AI fellowship. It was the most difficult 6 months of my life, getting hands-on to do vibe coding at a different level.
Yeah.
It started off with 300 people in that classroom, right? Here's the fun part. When they asked the 300 people, why are you here? Everyone said, we're here to learn vibe coding and then potentially, build a product and sell it. Cool. Of the 300 along the way, this is how the maths finally melted. 7 people actually took their ideas to fruition to raise funding. I am one of them. I have to ask a simple question. What happened to the rest? The rest got distracted by the fact that they just learned about Sora, and you can make Sora videos or you can make action figures. And I was looking at the WhatsApp group that I'm party of there. It's the same people flooding the feed with, I just built on Suno a amazing song about this initiative. And now where are you with the initiative? Oh, it was just an idea. But you spend
Yeah.
time and effort and then share it with everyone else as if that's a big achievement. It's not. And this is the problem for me. It goes back to the same thing as my mom said. Running up and telling me that you are having a child is awesome. But anyone can. Every animal out there has a child. What are you talking about? So that's what's happening with people. People have notions. People then go spend time on stuff that doesn't matter. And that is the downfall of humanity, right? AI
Yeah.
is now revealing it to us quicker and faster.
Yeah.
And to be
And
honest with you,
that's the thing. It'll make us run faster across over to that edge of the cliff.
and as you fall, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna pull out your phone and say, Chat GPT, quickly tell me where exactly am I? Calculate the coordinates and tell me that I'm going to land on a soft sand, or is it hard rock, or is it going to be water? And it says, oh, calculating. And the next thing you hear is kachunk. You realize that you know the answer. You landed on hard rock and now you're lying there bleeding out to death. It's just one of those things, right? So for me, AI is also the most liberating thing that's happened for me, Jeff. It is so much power it's got to me that I have actually come to a very simple conclusion. I could, if I want, triple my rate on an hourly basis, Jeff, based on how much I've infused. But I also realize that everyone else out there can also use AI to their betterment. So there's two ways to differentiate. One is show so much value that your money is there, or for the same price, deliver so much value that people never leave you. So it's a
Yeah.
choice that people will have to make. Because what AI is going to do is, and this I think, if and you can go check with your wife, every resume that I get is shiny. Because guess what? There are so many tools out there. Now the trick is interview. So now companies are using AI interview tools. And guess what? I'm predicting by the close of 2026, your resume will get you an interview and the combined score will get you the real interview. Because now
Yeah.
an AI can do 1,000 interviews in 1 hour.
Well, it's fascinating because I'm seeing a lot of recruiters who are now asking people to share their screen so they can see they're not using AI for their questions. It is amazing, but
It is.
it is fascinating because my wife's in an industry where there's regulation, and a lot of people, they've put the job post into ChatGPT and asked it to tailor their resume,
Tailor the
and it's
resume. Absolutely.
and it's perfect fit. But when my wife asks them, when did you get this certification? What are you talking about? It's on your resume. Oh, ChatGPT said I should put that there.
Oh,
Okay.
Jeff, this is really cool. Now, anyone listening in is going to assume that you just exaggerated. I am telling you, you did not, because that is at
Nope.
least every month I find 3 or 4 people who actually tell me to my face. I just right now I'm mentoring a young lady. She's finished her MBA in analytics, and she's in the job market. And as I am mentoring and talking to her, she calmly tells me, I asked her, why do you call this a skill of yours? What have you done in this? She says, ChatGPT said that that's the right word to use because it's got to hit the ATS. I'm like, okay, so let's forget the ATS. What? Tell me the story behind why you believe that you know this. She says, oh, I've done something. Therefore, this is the inference. I'm like, no, it's not. It's two different things. You got to be very cautious here, guys. ChatGPT will tell you, of course, what it believes is the truth. And you're asking someone to tell you the truth based on a piece of paper. And Jeff, here's the fun part. Just think about it now. This world is so crazy. There is a company that is actually raising funds right now and is getting millions. Because what they say is that we will use our AI to actually analyze people's LinkedIn and the resumes and the profiles to tell you what type of people they are, so that when you sell to them, you know how to adjust your style by using the DISC methodology or this methodology. And I'm
Yeah.
smiling and laughing here. I have 6 customers who actually took my help to write their LinkedIn profile updates and stuff. Some of them even asked me for a little chat GPT so that they can post on LinkedIn. Now you're going to read that post and you're going to now try to predict that this guy is a direct or a steadfast or whatever, conscientious. Bite me is what the Americans say, that right? Bite me. Yeah, bite me. I'm telling you, good luck. You will walk into a meeting and have the surprise of your life. The guy
Yeah.
that sounds like a go-getter direct is now suddenly someone else, or the someone that sounds very polite and reserved on his post is actually someone else. Because that's what's happening. It's like trying to look at my best friend actually runs a recruitment agency, and he said to me that there's an actually an inverse ratio of, on the first day everyone comes to the interview dressed slick, but when they get to the job on the first day they all come in Hawaiian shirts like what you're wearing, Jeff, right? So he says this is just really crazy. And I said, yes, because you put them into the limelight, right? And when you're in the limelight, you have one shot to get a job. So what do? You do what does not reflect your character. And that's the point I'm trying to make here, Jeff.
Yeah.
AI is simply now allowing people to scale stupidity faster. And I can tell you one more thing. Today, Jeff, when I get an email and it says to me as follows, it's not about not taking chances, Deepak, full stop. It's about taking chances at the right time. I'm like, okay, the first sentence tells me that ChatGPT did its X, therefore Y arrangement. Do you
Yeah.
think I'm going to read the rest of your message?
Yeah.
I'm just cautioning people, just be human. Don't go overboard with your emails and stuff. And they're forcing themselves to personalize, Jeff. What's the definition of personalized? So as an example, Jeff, I look at your background and can I tell you that, Jeff, you are a connoisseur of furniture. You like to get dividers made from oak or something, and you're sitting there thinking, what are you on about, man? I got this for $75 from freaking IKEA, and it took me and my 2 sons and my wife to figure it out because we didn't know, and then 6 screws were less, so we had to run to Office Depot to get the screws. No one knows that story.
Yeah.
People try
No,
to build a solution. Yeah. Sorry, back to you.
Oh, no. I find it fascinating. By the way, last night I was on I am a moderator on a technical support thread, and I'm not kidding. Last night, 2 people were letting their AIs argue their point, and one was like, "Grok says this," and the other says, "Well, ChatGPT says this." And I'm like, oh my God, we've lost the plot. We're now letting AI argue on our behalf.
In fact, I saw a Reddit post that blew my mind. He actually said how to ask Grok or an AI to be less of an AI. And his prompt was actually pretty revealing and I was like reading that and I said to him, this is really obtuse. But we are now having to coach and guide. And then tells me, when someone tells you that, you can actually train an AI to write in your style, I'm laughing because you got to understand. 2 years ago, that sounded sexy, but after 2 years of using Chat GPT and even all my writing, if you go back to it and train, you will get back to the same thing again. You need to remain individual, otherwise the AI is going to always make you the average. And
It
remaining
always
the
comes
individual is
back to
different.
center, right?
It comes back to the center always. Life does that,
Yeah.
right? So I've always told the wife, this year my bonus was the highest. She says, yeah, and I'm going to cry for 3 years. And it took me a long time to figure out she's spot on because the cycles come and go. It's Jeff.
Yeah.
I would argue with you, Jeff, if you do the maths, every 11 years, America does drop a bomb somewhere. I was doing the maths one day and I'm like, oh my God. So there you go. That's your stock market indicator. When you're in year 10 and you're like, okay, baby, where am I putting my money
Yeah.
this year? You know what? It's year 11. I have a good feeling. Defense
I
stocks.
forget who the expert is, but there's an expert out there who follows socks and underwear. That's his indicator for the economy, because when the economy's going good, guys go out and stock up on new underwear and new socks. But when the economy's bad, they'll wear them for a decade.
They'll wear them until the holes reveal and it's all air conditioned. Yes, I know what you mean.
It's like stylish and breezy all at once. I love it. Well, Deepak, I could talk to you all day. I think we could have so much fun with but I want to be mindful of your time. So I want to thank you for taking some time. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about you or Sandler or Rise Up?
Absolutely. So for me, it's pretty simple. I am a night owl who sits on LinkedIn praying, P-R-A-Y, as well as praying, P-R-E-Y. I do both, right? Because survival of the fittest. LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn, just put my name in, Deepak Bhootra. I'm the only Deepak Bhootra. Anyone else there is poor guys are stuck with 666 or Deepak Bhootra AK2255. I'm there. DM me, always at your service. Sandler, anyone looking for sales training, sales coaching, or just want to have a conversation about, because every day, Jeff, there's a lot happening. And I would say sales is being impacted. Economic times typically make people divest from sales. And I'm watching a lot of job postings coming out declaring salespeople. Any salesperson out there who's listening who feels that he's being kind of feeling a bit down or is on the market, happy to look at resumes, happy to give feedback, anything to keep you going, keeping you focused. That's me, sir. Rise Up, I'm actually raising on WeFunder. If you go to wefunder.com/rise up at work, you can see the pitch deck. Would love for people to look at the pitch deck, keep an eye out on us. If you like what you're seeing there, I would like you to follow. I would love for you to invest, of course. I would love that, right, Jeff? Jeff, nothing more enticing or enchanting than other people's money, because opium is the best hit of it all.
I love it.
OPM.
I love it. Thank you for being on the show today, Deepak.
My pleasure. Take care, Jeff. Bye-bye, audience.